Sorry, y'all have to watch me. I've got apples stuck everywhere.
I would like to call the regular council meeting of May 11th to order. And first item is approval of the agenda. Councillor Kettler, Councillor Sullivan, all in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. Councillor Brown, Councillor Sproul, all in favor? Carried. Delegation, recommend that council receive the presentation from Inspector Mike Curvis, OIC, RCMP, Comox Valley Detachment. Councillor Brown, Councillor Kettler, all in favor? Carried. Inspector Curvis, welcome.
Okay, am I on?
I don't see your picture, but I hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm not even looking at myself here. So start my video. I guess that's me.
So
There you
I
are.
just, oh, there you go. Yeah,
There you
you're
are.
on. Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if the presentation's going up. There it is. Okay. So what I did was I sent two reports. One was a general overview for the whole Comox Valley, and it gives you kind of a comparison from the different communities and what type of files we're responding to, and just basically the overlay of our office and who's off and what's going on. So that's kind of an overview. That's kind of from a high altitude, and that's for you to read at your own leisure. So I did a second presentation, which is it's just for Cumberland, and it'll be brief, and it just kind of goes over the type of files and the file count. You're actually the village file count actually went down. So you went from 792 to 739. So that's a 7% decrease if you like statistics. So if you want to go to the top 10 files types, that's the second slide. Oh, lost it.
She'll be working on it.
That's okay. There it is. And you can see, back to that one, top 10. So top 10 files, traffic as 71. So it counts for, these files here count for about 50% or 48% of the call we receive from Cumberland. You can't see it on the screen, but it's 71 for traffic type calls. And those are motor vehicle acts, speeding, drag racing in the community, things like that. Suspicious occurrence, mischief, that's damage to property, typically when it's under $5,000, like defacing property, graffiti and things like that. Then you got unspecified assistance, which is kind of a catch basin for everything we can't really classify and score. Property loss, that's wallets and mostly wallets and property that people lose. Cause of disturbance is popular. That's kind of catch basin for loitering and people yelling and screaming and basically misbehaving in a public area. Theft from motor vehicle under 5,000. That's usually they're breaking in, they're stealing the change and wallets and credit cards and whatever's left loose in the car. Breach of peace, that's kind of falls under cause of disturbance. We can use that section there to arrest people, and we can detain them for a period of time, make them calm down, especially when it's a cause of disturbance type scenario, when they're out of control a little bit. There's alcohol involved, there's drugs involved. We can use that section. There's no charges with that, but it gives us authority to arrest people. Bylaws, there's 26 calls for noise, and then the Mental Health Act. Those are the individuals that need our assistance one way or another because of their illness. And we have a couple ways we do that. One way is if we get a call and we assess them under the Mental Health Act, we have the ability to arrest them under the Mental Health Act and then take them for assessment. And that is either one of two ways. We can bring them to our office here, and we have a crisis nurse program where the nurses actually come in and assess them in our cells. And then the other option is for us to take them right to the hospital and get assessed there. We prefer our cells better because we have better control. When we go to the hospital, we're there for a long period of time, and it takes two members, usually ties them up for a period of time. And there's a next slide, please. So break and enters, you got 7 just break and enters, residential 6, and businesses 5. So on the big scope of things over a year, you have very little break and enters. Next slide, please. And auto theft, again, not very significant. Theft of auto over 5,000, theft of motorcycle under, and typically that's the value of the vehicle. If a vehicle is worth 5,000, we kind of make an assessment of where that category is. Theft of truck over and under, and theft of auto under. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 calls in a year about theft of auto. So that's pretty minimal. Next slide, please. So I did an overlay of where the calls are. I know it looks kind of ominous when you look at this because all the dots are in one spot, but that's just to kind of where everything is. It'll break it further down in the next slides. And I don't know what this one in the middle of the lake is, so don't ask me about that one. Okay. So this is broken down. This is kind of the bigger circles is more dense in the number of calls for that particular area. It doesn't break it down to addresses. It's just kind of specific area, like a block. So you can see where the calls of concentration are. The next slide, please. So here you break and enters. You can see where they are. One on Dunsmuir. They're kind of sporadic all over the place. So there's no real rhyme or reason where they are. They're kind of sporadic. Next slide, please. Again, auto theft. We don't have a lot of those. And then it's just, again, there's no rhyme or reason where that happens. Next slide, please. Theft from motor vehicle, that's a little bit more significant, and that's a real community concern, and not just Cumberland, but in the Comox Valley itself, that is a concern. With the different populations we have, we get a fair bit of that, so we're trying to combat that as best we can. Next slide. And mischief, and there you see the mischief, and a lot of it is on the main road there, Dunsmuir, and that could be just defacing property, pulling signs down, and simple mischief, stuff like that. So you see Dunsmuir Ave, and then the rest are kind of sporadic again. Next slide, please. And this is our mental health act calls. And again, that's all over the place. It's not specific to an address, it's just a location. So that should be it. So for the size of the community, you got 739 files. In my standards, is not a lot of files. Again, I know we talked about priorities, and Mayor Bear signed off on those. And so we have 5 priorities. I just want to kind of reiterate those, and that's crime reduction, police and community relations. And we got the safety watercrafts, traffic, road safety, and then we got the parks and campgrounds. So those are all on there. We're going to be targeting those and trying to pay attention to those things and kind of deal with, those scenarios. I know for this past weekend, we had the boat on the lake. I don't know if you got word of that or not, but they're out there, and people were mostly happy to see the RCMP boat. So I'll just open up the questions.
My question is, can you help us out with the traffic at the campground and the cars that are parking on the roadway?
Well, if it's on the roadway and it's a public road, yes, we can work with that, but that's a private campground.
Yeah, I know about inside the gate, but I'm talking about outside the gate.
But is that Ministry of Transport road, or is it a Cumberland road?
It's Ministry of Transportation. It's not our road. We don't own that road. It's not in the village boundaries. Okay.
That's a highway thing. There is some methods we can do that where they're impeding traffic, and then we have the ability to tow. And I know Corporal Matchell will be out there having a look at that, because that's part of his a mandate to go look at that. So I'll remind him to do that.
Yeah, it would really help us if some people were towed and charged, because it would go like wildfire on social media, and then people will pay attention.
But we could certainly work with that.
Okay, someone else have a question? Okay, Maya, okay, go ahead, Councillor Kettler. I have another one.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I was wondering about community policing. It's something that's been a priority of council for many years, and what your approach is to that. Do you have any sort of procedural things that you would use to be able to build relationships with the community, or are you kind of hamstrung by policies that require specific actions like ticketing?
No, no, I know I talked to Mayor Baird when I first got here. My vision is just being on the street and dealing with the community and the public on a face-to-face basis. I know it's difficult in our circumstance right now, but that's the mandate of our bike section. You're going to see them up there. They're going to be doing community patrols. And it's not about giving people tickets and investigating criminal offenses. It's about going out there and talking to them and getting to know the public and getting to know the business community.
And you feel that you have the resources to do that?
Yes, yeah, that's our bike section is quite involved in that. They are tasked with the homeless portion of that mandate as well, so they're busy with that. But they do go into the different communities regularly and go to the businesses and talk to them. So Corporal Chamberlain is just back from pat leave, so that's going to bolster. They're back to 4-person unit, so that's going to help. So you're going to see a little bit more of them, and then they'll do their enforcement if they have to with the trails, with the bikes and that.
Great. Thanks so much.
Councillor Kettler. Thank you very much. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. My question is about, we have a few unlicensed motorized vehicles of a variety of sorts, mostly motorcycles and trikes, that like to do some nighttime wandering. And so there's a concern in the village around this, but I'm not sure whether you have any advice for us as to what to, because you kind of have to be here in the moment. If somebody calls afterwards, there's no way of finding them. Like what can we do to help that situation?
Well, our traffic unit and our general duty population are well aware of the quads and the cyclists in that area. I actually was in the village a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to stop in front of a guy with a quad, and he basically raced around me, and he was gone. And under the Motor Vehicle Act, when you don't have insurance, that's one of the offenses you can actually arrest a person under. So I was going to, basically he's driving an unlicensed motor vehicle, but we're not empowered to chase people. So we have to kind of wave, and without a visual and a license plate, how do you track that down? If people are aware of that and they know the person and they know the motorcycle and they can give us some details, we have the ability to give them a ticket, because an insurance ticket is $5.75. It's a big hit, and we have the ability to tow that motor vehicle as well. But the bottom line is this person has to stand up and identify this person, because if you see it and we don't, they have to give us the evidence, and they have to be able to stand up in court and say, this is the person that was driving that motorcycle.
Okay, can I follow up?
Mhm.
So people could take photos, or if they actually know who this person is, then
Yeah.
they can make a call
They
and
can
let
take
you know.
photos,
and
yeah,
then you can
absolutely.
follow.
But it's still the point of these people have to be willing to go to court.
Yeah.
Right? That's the bottom line. Like, we can get all the evidence and give these people tickets, but if you don't have a witness to step forward and actually identify them and speak to what they're saying, it's a moot point.
Yeah, okay.
And
Okay.
that's the big challenge. Like, people realistically don't want to get involved in the court process, because it takes time out of their day. And there is a bit of a backlash, especially within a small community, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So you said the theft from auto is quite high in the village. Is it the same people that are doing it? Do you know that? Or is it a number of different people?
Well, I don't want to go down this road, but I can tell you that a lot of that is from our homeless population.
Okay.
Right? And it's a slippery slope when I start talking about that. And it's difficult when we try and identify these people when they're setting up shop, and we go to these tents that pop up, and we find stolen property, we find barbecues, propane tanks, we find sharps, we find condoms. Everything is there. They're not actually social distancing, they're sharing everything. So that's the big, hard to sell to people that, okay, they're out in the bush, but they're not really social distancing. So a lot of that it's a small portion. I'm not saying all of them. There's a portion that just don't want to be in a house or deal with us. And that's just their lifestyle.
Okay. Well, thank you. And my other question is, last year you attended a village hall meeting, and that was very successful. And it was about traffic in Cumberland, and
Mhm.
we had a lot of people attend. Would you be willing to do something again like that, similar to that, like that this coming year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll put you on the agenda. We'll get staff to contact you to see, and you can choose which village hall meeting you'd like to attend.
Yeah, just the same venue as last year is fine, and we'll set it up whenever we can get something organized. That's fine.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I was going to mention. Just the success of the setup on Kendall last year after the village hall. I got a lot of people telling me how happy they were and how effective it was. And I haven't heard anything from the neighborhood really since. So just that really worked. So the neighborhood really appreciated what you guys did there.
Yeah, no, the guys and girls, they go there regularly. I know Councilor Malian was there today in the area. So it is a part of our regular patrols, and we try and do the best we can with it.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. This worked out really well.
Yeah.
So thank you. We'll
All right.
proceed with our meeting now.
All right, I'll sign out then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. We have no unfinished business and no correspondence reports. Recommend that council receive the development variance permit 2821 Windermere Avenue report dated May 1st, 2020. Councillor Brown, Councillor Kettler, all in favor? Carried. Senior planner? You have to put your microphone. There you go.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah, so this is an application that the village received by Leon and Philippe May to permit the conversion of a garage to an accessory dwelling unit or a part of a garage. And at the same time, also, there's an application for a variance to vary the side yard setback from 1.5 meters to 1.33 meters. The staff sent out the required notice to the neighbors and didn't receive any negative comments or any comments. So it's a fairly minor change, the variance, and the the infill fits in with the OCP policy of the village. So the staff is recommending approval of both the variance and the conversion to the ADU.
Any questions? Yes, Councillor Kettler, then Councillor Brown, then Councillor Sullivan.
I was just wondering, is it being built on the same foundation as the shed? And if so, why the variance?
Oh, I see, because it's a different use than the existing use. So, and then also the, but it is being built, you're right, it's being built in the same existing footprint of the garage. It's just half the garage that's being converted. But it's a new use that's not there currently, so yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brown.
I'm good. That was my question too.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
I was just going to read the motion.
You go right ahead then.
Perfect timing. I'll move the council approve the applications 2020-01 DP and 2020-02 DV for development permit and development variance permit on property described as Lot 10, Block 25, District Lot 21, Nelson District Plan 522C, 2821 Windermere Avenue, substantially in compliance with the attached development permit and development variance permits dated April 16, 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried.
Thanks.
Thank you. Recommend that council receive the long-term borrowing for the water supply projects report. Councillor Kettler and Councillor Brown, all in favor?
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. So the the report in front of you is actually to have council approval to take the water supply projects to long-term debt through MFA. So there's two bylaws that that staff are looking to take to long-term debt. The first was adopted in 2013 for the original water supply projects. And so that bylaw is $447,120 for the Stevens Lake Dam stabilization project. And then with the successful application of the $4.9 million grant and for the water supply, the rest of the water supply projects, there was a scope change. And as a result of that scope change, then a new borrowing bylaw for $1,050,000 was adopted in 2017. So that new bylaw was for the water treatment plant, a reservoir, and duplication of the water supply main. So putting those two bylaws together, the total borrowing would be just under $1.5 million. And so to secure this long-term borrowing with MFA, council must adopt a municipal security issuing resolution for each bylaw. And we also need to request to the regional district, our borrowing needs to go through the regional district. So in order to work with the regional district's deadlines, in order to make the MFA fall issue for borrowing, we need to approve these resolutions by May 15th and get those to the regional district. So then my report also outlines to you some interest rate and lending term analysis. And so on page 29, I've given you some charts. One chart lets you see the estimated total payments for 20-year and 30-year terms. And the other chart shows you estimated annual payments. So as you can see, your total payments increase, of course, as you go up in debt term. So you're going to pay an extra $361,000 from if you choose to go for a 30-year term over the 20-year term. But your annual payments would decrease for a 30-year term. So you're going to pay just under 25 grand less per year if you were to do the 30-year term over the 20. And then I also have given you an estimate of what a parcel tax would look like for this debt. Now, the parcel tax will need to come back to you in the fall once the debt is known, the debt amount. So this is just an estimate. But you can see based on a single parcel tax for each lot, your original parcel tax estimate is higher than what it is now. And of course, that's due to a decrease in interest rates. But based on this information, staff is recommending a 20-year amortization for the debt term. But of course, council can choose a 30-year term if they prefer. And other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Councillor Sproul.
Yeah, the thing I've thought about quite a bit over the years is if you have a 30-year term, you capture more people into the future, another 10 years worth of new growth that would then contribute, be paying off this debt too. So I would think that that would be advantageous to have more people putting money into the debt.
Through the mayor, you're absolutely right, Councillor Sproul. So the debt terms start with a 10-year debt term, and then they go in increments of 5 to 10 years after that. So yes, you could in fact analyze the parcel charge after 10 or 15 or 20 years, and you may be able to reduce that parcel charge using the extra growth that might occur at that time.
Councillor Brown?
So following that thinking, couldn't you still do a 20-year term and adjust the parcel tax to spread it out longer so more people pay for it? Or so those people are still contributing? I don't want to lose, I see that on a 20-year term, we're saving $320,000. That seems valuable to me. So I'm just looking for your opinion on what the benefits, or is there another way to do it through the parcel tax?
Through the mayor, usually a parcel tax has a debt term attached to it. But if council wishes to make the municipal security issuing resolutions for a 20-year debt term for both bylaws, and direct staff to investigate that for when I come back with the parcel tax choices, I could do that. I could come back with that information and look into it further.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Councillor Kettler?
Well, just comments that I also kind of struggled with the 20-year versus 30-year, just because we don't really know what the economic impact of COVID is going to be yet. So having to pay $24,000 less a year toward this specific debt for the water capital is appealing, considering that we'll be paying a large portion of debt toward the fire hall as well. So lowering our debt payments would be nice. But then our CFO also talked about, if you're doing the 30-year, which would be the lower payments, you'll get into the life cycle of the works, the capital works that we're paying for, and so there might be get into repair costs at that time. So it might complicate things then. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Maybe more information would be helpful to make the decision.
Through the mayor, at this point, I wouldn't actually, I guess the information that could come back would be just to help you understand what the maintenance costs would be, but I'm not sure that that's known at this point. But the other thing is, if I do go back to get information for you to help you make a decision between the 20 and 30-year term, we would probably need a special council meeting before the 15th to come back with that information, unfortunately. So I do apologize about the timeline.
Any other thoughts or questions? Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I prefer the 20-year staff recommendation.
Councillor Brown?
So I'm ready to move the motion if nobody else has questions.
Okay.
That council approve the borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of British Columbia as part of its 2020 fall borrowing session, $447,120.72, as authorized through the Corporation of Village of Cumberland Water Improvement Loan Authorization Bylaw number 981, 2013. And that the Comox Valley Regional District be requested to consent to the Village of Cumberland borrowing over a 20-year term, and including the borrowing in a security issuing bylaw. And that council approve borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of British Columbia as part of its 2020 fall borrowing session, $1,050,100 as authorized through Water Improvements Loan Authorization Bylaw number 1063, 2017. And that the Comox Valley Regional District be requested to consent to the Village of Cumberland borrowing over a 20 item to 6.2-year term, and include the borrowing in a security issuing bylaw. And I'll just add that if staff could investigate spreading the parcel tax out and come back to us with that information, that would be great.
There was a typo in that, so that item 6.2, it should just be a 20-year
Right.
bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Seconder for that, Councillor Sproul. All in favor? Carried. Next, recommend that council receive the Climate Action Revenue Incentive, CARP, 2019 Carbon Offsets Report. Councillor Sproul, Councillor Kettler. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, so this report you've seen in front of you for the last few years. So its purpose is council direction regarding a priority list of your projects or portfolios that you would like to see the village purchase carbon offsets for the 2019 reporting year. So staff will come back to council at the May 25th council meeting with a report that will outline your the village's plans and progress towards meeting the climate action goals as a climate action charter signatory. And also it will outline its progress towards becoming carbon neutral, which is a requirement of that of these charter. So in order to be carbon neutral, council would need to purchase carbon offsets. And unfortunately, the province changed reporting requirements, reporting tools for the carbon inventory at this point. And so as the time of writing this report, that tool wasn't available yet. And so we don't actually know what the carbon offsets are yet, but we do feel like confident that the $7,500 budget would be sufficient based on previous year's purchases. And so then on page 35 and page 36, I have outlined some projects that are available for those offsets. And unfortunately, in the past, council has purchased the Qualicum First Nation, the Quadra Island forest management projects on its own as offsets. But I guess that's a very popular project, so it's no longer available as a project on its own for carbon offsets. It can only be purchased as the part of the portfolio that it's in. But I was informed that the Great Bear Forest Carbon Project is a project that can be purchased on its own. So,
Okay, let's go around the table and get everyone's input. So Councillor Sproul.
Yeah, I couldn't decide on totally the Great Bear Forest Carbon Project, so I would choose the Synergy portfolio because it includes that. It includes the Quadra Island Forest Land, which is the nearest project to Cumberland. And I think it would be great to help with something in developing country in Africa. So I would choose that one.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
I like that the community carbon marketplace is all just on the island. That's but $30. A question to Michelle. the 315 tons was the highest amount of tons that we've had, and the $30 times 315 makes it $9,500. But you think that it should be less than that, is what you're saying? You don't expect it to be the maximum?
Through the mayor, yeah, that 7,500. We had that was in our largest year when we we were just finishing off the Dunsmuir huge project, and also we were doing Bevan into Cumberland Road project. So I think we just had a lot of tractor emissions.
Right.
And if in fact we did have 315 tons of offset that went over the $7,500, you know, we could look at other projects, smaller projects or other budget savings, if that was a wish of council to choose the $30 per ton.
Okay, thank you. I'd almost like to pay the $5 extra to keep it on the island, but I also support the synergy. So I think my first choice would be the community carbon marketplace, and my second choice would be the synergy portfolio.
Councillor Brown.
So every year when we do this, I think, why can't we put
Buy our
this-
forest.
buy our forest? And so I reached out to them, and they have looked at this with the they didn't have enough land or trees, I guess, and so they will continue to look into it, but they have looked into it and will work towards that. But that was the hold back, and that included the Perseverance purchase. Obviously before the Perseverance purchase went through, but looking at that, even with that additional land, it was not quite enough. And then I wonder too, if we're allowed to do that because we end up owning the land, is that still okay to do that? And isn't there some way of us claiming that, because in essence, we are protecting that land and those trees, and so does that already go against so would that be double dipping if we gave it them the money, or
yeah, through the mayor, when this first started, that was one of the first things that I did reach out to the Cumberland Community Forest Society, because I felt like it was a good project, but it was quite onerous to be certified at that point. I'm not quite sure what it's like now. But the forest, the other part is I did look into the forest being our forest, and I believe it's not a valid offset for us. I'd have to look into it again, and I will, but it wasn't a valid offset for us because it's a community. It's not actually something we're saving as an offset. Like we have offsets on our carbon for our organics pickup, because it actually can be measured, and it's and they allow. But the forest itself did not have proper. I shouldn't actually be saying this because I can't remember, but I did actually try to get offsets for. Don't actually have a reason I can remember.
Okay, because I wonder if we combined the forest that CCFS is purchasing on our behalf, and then our watershed lands, maybe there's something there. Anyway, something for us to look at in the future. But I like the synergy as well because it has the Quadra Island, and yeah, that's my leader at this point too.
Councillor Kettler.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the community marketplace because there's a few things in there, like West Coast Railway Association and Net Zero Waste Abbotsford, that I'm not sure that we want to support necessarily. I think I wouldn't mind putting all the credits toward the Great Bear rainforest project or the synergy portfolio, which includes the Great Bear and Quadra Island and the Ugandan efficient wood cook stove project. So either one of those I'm fine with.
And I supported the synergy portfolio. I thought it made perfect sense for us. It covered many of the things that we were supporting. So if somebody would like to make a motion, because it looks like just about everybody, it's either their second choice, if not their first. Yes, Councillor
Lynn?
Spruill?
I'm just trying to see where to, I'd like to move that council choose the synergy portfolio to equalize our carbon credits or carbon debts rather.
Seconder, Councillor Brown? All in favor? Carried.
And through the mayor, would you like to just make one more motion to choose a second in case there's not enough offset to purchase?
Okay, who would like to make that motion? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I'll move that we, if we can't do the synergy project, that we put that into the Great Bear Rainforest.
Second that.
Second, Councillor Spruill, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Next, we have recommend that council receive the 2020 property tax rates bylaw report. Oh, sorry. Councillor Brown and Councillor Sullivan, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you. The report in front of you has actually changed very little from your April 27th meeting, so I won't go into too much detail. The bylaw hasn't changed either. Just to point out though, I've made a wrong typo in your recommended resolution, the third resolution. It says pursuant to ministerial order number M083. It's actually M139. So whoever would like to move that, you just have to make a slight change.
Okay.
And I answer any questions if you'd like.
Anyone have any questions? Then, yes, Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I still feel that that we could have made a property tax reduction for class 1, the residential class, to in an attempt to reduce the property tax for families in Cumberland for the 2020 year.
Thank you. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Spruill? Councillor Sullivan, you,
I got it. I'll move the council give first, second, and third reading to 2020 property tax rates bylaw number 1130/2020 and move the council adopt pursuant to ministerial order number M139/2020 property tax rates bylaw number 1130/2020.
seconder, Councillor Spruill, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Kettler? Carried. Next, recommend that council receive the OCP amendment bylaw number 1115 and zoning amendment bylaw number 1116, report dated April 30th, 2019.
Move receipt.
And Councillor Brown seconds that. All in favor? Carried.
Okay. Yeah, this is a little bit of housekeeping in a way. We're seeking to rezone the fire hall property to the use that we're going to be having on the property. So while, it's really just, to make sure the OCP actually designates it as institutional, while the OCP right now does allow fire protection in any zone and, in any land use designations. We technically don't need to do this. However, the land use map then would reflect, if we do the OCP redesignation, the land use map would designate the institutional use, which seems appropriate. And we can do this, since we can do this at the same time as a zoning bylaw amendment, we added that to this mix. So the zoning bylaw amendment is also, so a fire station is a permitted use as a utility in all zones. Again, we're doing this really for housekeeping because we also want to have a public assembly use at the fire hall. There's a big public meeting room. So it's just to straighten it all out and have it officially an institutional zone for that property. So we're presenting it for first reading because at the time that I put the report in, we were still unclear how we would be conducting a public hearing. I think we're getting closer. So the next meeting will probably be able to come forward with second reading and setting a date for public hearing. But we want to get this going because, as you know, we're in construction and this has to be done before occupancy.
Okay, any questions from anyone? No, somebody like to move then?
I'll move the council give first reading to official community plan amendment bylaw number 1115/2020 and give first reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1116/2020.
Seconder, Councillor Brown, all in favor? Carried.
Thanks.
Okay, no consent calendar, no new business, notice motions and announcements. I would like to announce, it's not on your calendar because the decision was made today to move forward on the Victoria Day Parade for Monday. And it will take place Monday morning at 10 a.m. And this will be a drive-by. And it will start with the fire chief's vehicle and a number of hopefully members of council and the May Queen party at this point. That's the whole parade will be touring the village. We're taking the parade to the people of Cumberland. And we hope that they will stay home and that we can drive by. Some of them are going to be decorating their vehicles. The kids are thrilled to be doing it because they're riding in their own family vehicles. And so I hope that you as members of council will join in. Okay, and if you can, let me know. And we are looking for a piper that will sit in the back of the pickup. Your parade would not be in Cumberland if it wasn't for a piper. So there will be no bikers, and there will be no walkers. Because yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, Councillor Brown.
I just wanted to add that the reason we're that the Empire Events Committee, I think I got that name right, wants to do this is so that we have consecutive years of our long week Victoria Day celebrations, so that we don't lose what year are we at this year?
132.
32, yeah. So we don't want it to stop there.
No, we'll lose that title. They advertise it's 132 continuous years, and if they don't do something, and it hasn't always been a parade, it's been festivals and events that happen in some area at times, but there was always something that happened. So this is what they've decided to do. Yes, Councillor Sproul?
So once again, if we were to consent to be involved, we'd have to drive in a car. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
you do. Yes.
Whose car?
Preferably your own car, and you can bring your family and wave to people and enjoy the outing. It will be for 1 hour. We're going to drive around the blocks. The fire chief is working with the parade marshal to come up with the route. We will follow all the road rules. You will stop at stop signs and everything like that, but we'll all try and be as close together as possible. And we're meeting at the Culture Center at 9:45 on Monday morning. Okay. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me. I have no problem with talking to people about this. But we want to make sure that we do not want people from out of town coming into Cumberland. This is for Cumberland residents. Okay. Then we move right along to question period. Please send in your questions by email to info@cumberland.ca using subject line question period. And we are going to limit you to one questions only. Comments will not be read out. And my understanding is, once again, we have to pass some time to give the people the opportunity to email us. And
Mayor-
yes,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add, if you want to put your name on your vehicle, you can get out your election signs
Mhm.
and put them up to let people know you're there and who you are. Yes, Councillor Brown.
I was just gonna read a question, but I think Rachel's on it.
It's up to Rachel to do that. Thank you.
No.
That's probably the same one. We've got a video through the YouTube channel, whether the parade will go up Union Road. I guess it's more of a request.
I will address that and see what happens. They're making their decision tonight, the parade marshal and the chief, and I'll ask him if he is. I think it's appropriate that we do. There's a couple of places where I don't think we'll be able to turn around, but that makes logic sense, that road. Okay.
Okay, we've got a second question. Why vehicles only for the parade?
Because we're going to be traveling all through the town and people walking would not be able to keep up with the parade, and the bikers would add an added risk. They're very concerned about that. It could be, it's an hour along, so that's what their concern is. Yes, Councillor Sproul?
Oh, I'm still on. But I have an electric bike and it's effortless.
Then
And you go, so, you know, I just feel that we're, I mean, I don't know who can improve on it. I mean, change what's going on already, but I would prefer to be seen on a bike than
okay,
in my
what I
car.
will do is I'll get back to you on that, because
Hmm.
they are also going to put it on Facebook on Currently Cumberland to let people know, stay home. But and we'll post some of that information, but I'll have to take it back to the committee because it's not my decision. It's the parade marshals. Yes, Councillor Sutherland.
I also vote for a bicycle.
It's the bicycle rebellion.
Well, we already did this once, so I'm sure we'll rebel one more
Yes.
time.
Okay.
Yeah. And
All right.
I'd love to do a bicycle too, but I think I'm putting the Piper in the back of Adam's truck. So I will give up the bicycle for the Piper because I really want a Piper.
I think that would be amazing to have the Piper. Yes. Anything else from anybody? Nope. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Kettler, sorry. All in favor? Adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. See you guys.